What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with Dynasty Decisions episode 14. You guys know the drill. If you want to be featured on an upcoming Dynasty Decisions episode, all you have to do is reach out to us on Twitter. Those are on the screen right now. Or you can join our Discord in the description and DM us on there of your questions, your trades, your rookie picks, whatever you want to know, whatever decision you have to make. That's the point of this show, Dynasty Decisions. We got a number of teams that we're going to get into today. We're going to be dropping this as a two-parter. This one should come out around noon on Friday, and then the other one should come out later on Friday. As of right now, me and Danny are actually in person when you guys are watching this, recording a episode for Doing Football for Owner's Box, and we're also going to record an episode for our channel that'll come out tomorrow with the Owner's Box guys. So our first live recording will be coming out tomorrow. So that's something for you guys to get excited about as well.
For sure. And heck, we've been doing this for over a year now, and it's going to be nice working in an office and getting that figured out. But yeah, the boys at Owner Rocks appreciate you guys for having us in. That's going to be a banger of a two-parter, one on our channel, one on their channel. We'll have that all linked in the description for tomorrow's video. But let's talk about this video. We're going to talk about Dynasty Decisions, these next two videos for today. Well, let's start off with the first batch of questions. But before we get into that,
got to hit the intro.
Exactly. So let's start off with Nick Dinicola, a 10-team Superflex League. Corey, take it away with Nick's team.
Yeah, so he reached out to us actually last week, shortly after we recorded the previous Dynasty Decisions for last week. He just missed the cut, so I said he'll be the first one for this week, and we got him on as the first one. So he said his startup just about finished, 3 rounds left or so, so the majority of the players are gone. He wants to know, does he shop Saquon or Tyreek, or should he keep them both for the future? And then just general advice on the direction of the team. And as well, are Zach Wilson and Justin Fields good options for the future as well? So let's tackle the first question here, Saquon and Tyreek. Given the current framework of his team, are you looking to shop those guys, or are you looking to build around them?
So looking at the team right now, the RBs, their top 3 is pretty cool. Wide receivers, Hill, Chase, LaVisca, Gallup, Bateman, Elijah Moore. So you're really stacked at the wide receiver position. Tight end a little bit young, and quarterback very young. For me personally, the way I'm looking at it is, this is probably a mid-level team in your league. I wouldn't say it's one of the top 4 teams, but it's definitely not one of the bottom 4. You're probably stuck in quote-unquote no man's land at this point. So yes, I would try to shop and see what Tyreek and Saquon are worth. To me, again, it's a 2022, 2023 type of team, again, especially with those 2 first-round picks you have for next year. So I would just be looking to acquire young assets and draft picks and really try to load this team up to enter that top 4 range for the future, because I don't necessarily believe, given the structure of the team right now, it's ready to compete year one.
Right, and I'll provide an alternate perspective because I actually disagree with you. I think he should keep Saquon and Tyreek Hill because he has 2 1s next year, because he has 2 1s in 2023 as well. I think Saquon and Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, are going to be valuable for the next 3 to 4 years. Like, they're not going to suddenly fall off in value after 1 year. The only way that could happen to Saquon is if he tears another ACL or something like that. So I'm more confident in this team going forward. I think this year you're probably not going to win, but you'll have a mid-level first-round pick. I don't know what your other first-round pick is, if it's a rebuilding team or a contending team. I have no idea. But this time next year, you should be able to either move those picks or acquire players using the draft picks that you have to, form out the rest of your running back core, because it is probably the weaker part of your team. And you should be in a good position to compete in 2022. So I would just kind of treat this year as playing with house money type of season. And then next year, you should be able to go for it, whether you spend both of those first-round picks or you trade in the offseason using those first-round picks or some of your other pieces to upgrade your team. So Miles Sanders, the only guy that I would consider shopping, just because I don't know how much value he's going to have a year or two from now, because he might not be a starting running back after his rookie contract is over, which will be 2 seasons from now. So he's the one guy that I would be shopping. But aside from that, Saquon and Tyreek Hill, I think, are going to hold value and hold elite value at that. So I wouldn't be shopping them personally.
That's fair. Again, the way I look at it is this team's probably going to be at its best by 2023. And realistically, by then, Saquon will probably be a 26 going on 27-year-old running back. Tyreek Hill will be a 29-year-old wide receiver. So realistically, how much is their value going to change between now and then? I do think it's going to go down pretty significantly because again,
you have picks to add to that team too, right? Like they're not gonna, like, you could draft another, let's say he gets the 105 this year. You could draft an Isaiah Spiller or whoever in next draft class and get another formidable running back to round out that core. Maybe you get another late first round pick. You add a John Mechie or something like that. Maybe you get a tight end. I think you're in pretty good shape to fill out this roster just with draft picks. Like you don't really keep in mind it's anything necessarily.
It's also a 10-team league as well.
It is a 10-team league, but I think he still has some high-end talent. I really believe in the two quarterbacks that he has, which is the other question that we can address right now. Are Zach Wilson and Justin Fields good options for the future? Yes, absolutely. I believe in both of those guys. Justin Fields obviously provides that big-time rushing floor and ceiling that we look for out of fantasy quarterbacks. Zach Wilson also provides that type of floor and ceiling with his running ability as well, and the out-of-structure plays that he was so good at BYU. I think people are really going to regret sleeping on Zach Wilson. I think this dude is a way better version of what Baker Mayfield is, basically.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully that helps you out. And whenever you decide to go, make sure you do it from an efficient standpoint. So anyways, we can get on to the next trade of the video. That's going to be from Gutie. You can take it away with Gutie's potential deal and what his team will look like if he were to make said deal.
Right. And this is a pretty even trade all around, but at face value, I think I would take one side, but based on his team, I think I'd take the other, which, I mean, doesn't always happen, but basically this is what the trade is. It's Travis Etienne and Michael Pittman, who he would be trading away in exchange for Jamar Chase and Michael Carter. Now, at face value, I would take Chase and Carter because Chase and Etienne is like basically a wash, in my opinion. Depending on whatever position you need, they're going relatively the same in rookie drafts. And I think actually most people would take Chase over Etienne. I personally just see them as like the same type of player. And then Carter versus Pittman to me, also pretty close, but I would personally lean Michael Carter. I believe a lot more in his outlook. We already saw Michael Pittman not faceplant his rookie season, but he definitely had the opportunity in front of him and didn't necessarily make the most of it, which always makes you nervous out of a rookie wide receiver when they have the opportunity and they don't do it, because he had all the chances in the world with T.Y. Hilton being banged up and Paris Campbell being out to actually produce at a high level, and he just didn't get it done. So I would take the Chase and Carter side at face value, but based on his team, currently right now he has Zeke, J.K. Dobbins, Myles Gaskin, and Travis Etienne as his running backs, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, and Rondell Moore as his wide receiver. So with Jamar Chase being the main acquisition of this deal, I don't think I would make this deal, because if you're trading for Jamar Chase, that means you need to sit most likely, or you just have a really deep wide receiver core of DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, and you're leaving yourself a lot weaker at running back when, if you don't make this deal, you're pretty stacked at both positions equally.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely how I see it as well. Again, if you do lose ETN, you have a lot of question marks surrounding your RB situation. As much as I like Gaskin for redraft, he doesn't necessarily have the value long term. And I do like Carter as the prospect. I do think he's going to be a very good running back. But again, this is still a 4th round pick that we're dealing with. The hit rates are undeniable. If he does hit, by all means, that's fantastic for you. But you don't want to have to rely on that being a significant piece of your team just yet. So when we're talking about ETN, myself and Bush both believe that this is going to be a franchise-altering type of running back. This is a guy that can rip off the big plays that we look for, really contribute in the receiving game. And in general, if we're looking at like the next Aaron Jones type of player, Travis Etienne does fit that bill. So on face value, I really do like, again, Chase and Carter side, I probably would prefer, because I still think Carter's a very good player. It's just losing out on the certainty that you get with Etienne, given your current core. I personally wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the ETN discrepancy between Chase and in terms of positional value is enough for me to just keep ETN and sit pat with where I'm at. So to the next team that we have here, we have Mike's team. And one thing that's kind of funny about Mike's team is that he couldn't get access to our Discord for whatever reason. It was just not working for him. So he actually emailed us his team. So going forward, don't email us your team. If you can, go to Twitter or to Discord and send us your team there. But if at last resort, our email is available, I suppose, if neither of those work for you. So 10-team, 1 quarterback PPR league. It is moving to a super flex format in 2023. So 2 years from now, it will be a super flex league. So if you're in a rebuilding state, which Mike actually is in, the ideal move would be to stack quarterbacks now before they become very valuable. So basically what he's done, you guys can see his team on the screen there. He's got Stafford, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Antonio Gibson, Myles Gaskin, Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall, some fodder, Kyle Pitts as well. He has 2 1s in 2022, 2 1s in 2023. and then a couple mid-round extra picks that he has as well. He says basically any recommendations. Should he just stuck with his original team? Should he trade Gibson for more picks, or should he stay put and take his beating like a man the next 2 seasons, he says. And then he says he has all his future picks, and they should be 101s or very high picks given the state of his team, he says.
Yep, absolutely. So we can see the trades that he made. He wanted us to kind of go over them. So again, and keep in mind, this is a 1 quarterback league, because I do see a Russell Wilson trade we can discuss as well. But I could take over the trades, or you want to read them through?
Yeah, let's go over the trades first, because he said, should I stick with my original team instead of, rebuilding and tearing it down like he did? Should he have just stuck with his original team and tried to compete? But we'll get through the first trade here. We go. He sent away Juju Smith-Schuster and Will Fuller, and in return, he got a 2023 first-round pick and the 401, which ended up being Josh Palmer. I love this trade. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Again, when you're looking at that, let's assume that's a mid-2023 first. And again, he mentions that it's transitioning from a 1 quarterback to a super flex. We're talking about DJ Ukulele, Bryce Young, the running backs in that class, Bijan Robinson, Tank Bigsby, wide receivers in that class, Kayshon Boutte. There's a good amount of talent in that 2023 class that really, if you're to label a name, one of those names to that 2023 first, as well as getting Josh Palmer in exchange for Juju Smith-Schuster, who neither of us believe in, and Will Fuller, who, as much as we believe in the talent, is really never going to be a true difference-making player in the lineup. I do think that 2023 first, talk about any of the names I just mentioned, could end up being the next elite star, like a Jamar Chase, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams type of player. So if you're subbing that out, I do think that's very fair value for you. I do like their side there. The next trade is a little interesting. I probably would not have done this personally, especially I do think you could have gotten more for those win now backs. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think if you got a 2022 first straight up for Montgomery, I think that's probably appropriate value. I don't think you would have gotten a first for Ronald Jones straight up. So I think if you were able to get a 2022 first and a 2022 second, this probably balances out the deal a little bit more. But the one thing I'd say about Ronald Jones and David Montgomery is that they're both young running backs still. So in a rebuilding situation, yeah, you want to get rid of running backs because they don't have a long shelf life and they're usually very high value assets in the short term. But I personally just think you could have gotten a little bit more than David Montgomery and Ronald Jones. But looking at the makeup of your team, to your previous question of should I have kept my original team or should I have, torn it down and rebuilt? Based on the look of your original team, it looks like you may have had enough to compete, right? Like it looks like he had Montgomery, he had Ronald Jones, he had Will Fuller, he had Mixon, he had Russell Wilson, he had Tyreek Hill, he had Tyler Lockett, Aaron Jones. You probably could have competed with that team, but I mean, I suppose I have to trust your judgment saying that maybe there's a number of other teams, because I can't see the other teams in your league that are super teams, and you're just like, I can't compete with the team that I have currently because their teams are too good and I won't be able to do that. So I definitely, I recognize it's tough to make that decision. And the fact that you did make that decision, you really have to commit to. You can't half-ass a rebuild. So yeah, it's a good thing that you did, fully commit to that.
The next, after we read through these trades, I would say the next plan of action would be trade Matt Stafford to a contender.
Yeah.
You'll probably, if you can, try to get two first if you can. If you can't get 2 first.
Because it's a 1 quarterback league right now.
Okay. So I understand. But let's read over that Wilson trade. And I'm not a fan of this. I'll be completely honest. I don't like this deal. The Wilson Mixon trade, you can read it off.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it because I think Mixon for the 104 is, comparable value. Let's say Mixon for the 104 and De'Ami Brown. So Pitts and De'Ami Brown for Mixon, I think that's comparable value in a rebuilding situation. Kyle Pitts has a lot of value, right? So
yeah,
that I value a lot. And that really, I think the best asset in this deal currently is Kyle Pitts because of that draw that he has as the young tight end that he is, the young superstar tight end. Russell Wilson is going to eventually be a super flex quarterback in a couple of years by the time you're ready to compete. Doesn't really have a lot of value right now. So I do agree with Danny. I don't think you got full value out of this deal, but I don't hate it. I think there's a world where this works out if Pitts and Marshall are able to hit big and De'Ami Brown maybe becomes a solid contributor as well.
Yeah, it's weird to analyze this because how do we judge it considering the fact that it's not a super flex for the next 2 years?
Yeah, it's really tough to do for sure.
But anyways, we'll talk about the next deal. And given the circumstances, I'll say it right now. If this was a straight up super flex league right now, I would be smashing your side and not thinking twice about it. The problem, though, is that because it's not a super flex until 2023, I think you could have gotten more, and you can take it away with the deal.
also think you could have waited till later in the draft to get Lance as well. At 103,
Yeah.
At 103, people probably weren't going to pick Trey Lance there in a one quarterback league for the time being. With the future, knowing that it's going to be super flex, you probably could have gotten Lance the 106, 107. If I'm guessing, that's probably, I'd imagine, where he's about going. Him and Lawrence probably going in that range.
We'll see it in the next deal as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that in the next deal. We can just go over that real quick because I think the Tyreek and Lockett deal, I would take the Tyreek side because I do think Tyreek is worth a lot, especially to a win now contender. I think you could have gotten more draft capital than you got. Even though the 103 and the 203 is good draft capital, I think you probably could have gotten a 2023 first on top of this in this deal if that guy is really trying to go out and win a championship. But Aaron Jones for Justin Fields, I don't like this deal one bit, to be honest. I think Aaron Jones is worth more than the 109. And as it stands, let's say the worst case scenario happens. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Aaron Jones is stuck with Jordan Love. I still think he's worth more than the 109. And if Aaron Rodgers stays, then he's absolutely worth more than the 109.
Especially considering that it's currently a one quarterback league and you're realistically not going to get the full value of Justin Fields until 2023, which by then it's probably a fair value deal. But because you get two basically free years from his end, he's basically thinking, oh, I'm giving up a quarterback in a one quarterback league for 2 years of complete contention with a guy who should be at minimum a fringe RB1 with Aaron Jones. I just think you probably could have gotten 2 ones, honestly. You probably could have gotten the 109 and a future one on top of this because of the current format of your league. So I don't know. I probably would have just kept your team as is because from the looks of it, I mean, Russell Wilson, Mixon, Gibson, as you mentioned, all those guys, you probably, if not won the championship, probably could have easily been in the top 3 teams in your league.
Yeah, he literally said in the email, if you do feel free to use it, feel free to roast away on some of these trades. I know I lost some of them. Basically, he's like, I suck. So I'm like, you don't suck. You definitely got some value, but now you're really going to have to put on your scouting hat,
GM cap,
and your GM cap because you gotta recoup some value because you definitely did lose some of it.
Yep, absolutely. So we can go on to the next team, I believe, unless you have any other closing thoughts.
He says, should I take my beating like a man? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like if you can move Stafford, try and move him, but it's going to probably be hard for you to do that until your league goes to a super flex format because it's not like he's a young QB where people who are also rebuilding can be like, oh yeah, like I'll just sit on Stafford until it becomes a super flex. In a one quarterback format, you're probably not going to get much more than the second round pick for Matt Stafford, which is kind of unfortunate because if you were contending right now, he'd be worth a lot more than that to you.
Yep, absolutely. So we can go on to TB Bucs, 10-team Superflex PPR league with a tight end premium. Doesn't specify what the premium is, but you can take it away with the team.
Yeah, so he said he just wrapped up the startup and he's just curious if he went too young here or what our thoughts are overall on his team. He said, I know I won't compete this year, but what is the outlook going forward for his team? And is this a team that he should look to do anything in particular or should he just sit tight and see what happens? I don't think he went too young at all. I think this team is phenomenal.
I love this team. I mean, you're talking about it. Fields, Wilson. We talked about Fields and Wilson being a very good duo for the future. In addition, you also get Mac Jones there. Running backs, Barkley. How did you get those 3 running backs? I want to know. Leave that in the comment section because that is a crazy good trio right there. Wide receiver, Godwin, Smith, Bateman, Moore. Like your stock there. And then Pitts is your tight end with multiple first-round picks next year.
And he's got 3 seconds too.
This is a 2022 team right now. You make those picks or you trade them for proven assets and boom, you're contending by 2022.
Yeah, and I think this is much like I said for the previous 2 teams or whatever, this is a house money year, right? Like if you win this year, you win this year, but you're probably not going to win this year, and that's fine because in 2022, we'll have a full season knowing what Zach Wilson is. We'll have a full season knowing what Justin Fields is. Your running backs will still all be in their primes, hopefully with more clarity on Akers and Gibson if you wanted to even sell them. And then your wide receivers, Smith, Bateman, Elijah Moore, again, you'll have more clarity on what those guys are. Pitts will be going into his second year, and you got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds of next year's draft. So I would just sit pat and hold with this team. If you see an opportunity to make some moves, let's say you're 6-2 because Fields and Wilson are lighting it up in their rookie year, or Mac Jones even in their rookie year, then maybe you can make a move and go out and acquire maybe another veteran receiver like an Allen Robinson or something like that. But I think you're probably going to be able to compete to a decent degree this year. And in 2022 and beyond, you should be the best team in your league, if not one of them.
Yep, absolutely. So any closing thoughts here? Should we move on to the next team?
No, that's pretty good. This is a pretty simple one for TB Bucs.
All right, so I can take it away with Tyler Browning's team right here. So 1 quarterback league, full PPR with 2 flex spots. So there's quarterbacks. He's got Mahomes and Darnold. Running backs, Swift, Mostert, J.D. McKissick. Wide receivers, McLaurin, Ayuk, Judy, Claypool, Gallup, and Mooney. Tight ends, Smith, Higbee, Howard. And he's already had his rookie draft, which you guys can see, made out like a bandit in a 1 quarterback league. Javonte Williams at the 109, absolute freaking steal there. Elijah Moore, 204. I have him ranked above that in a super flex format. So the fact that you got him there in a 1 quarterback.
They have 5 quarterbacks ranked above him in super flex too.
Yeah, absolutely steal. What a steal there. Elijah Mitchell and Hunter Long, very good overall rookie draft there. So if you think about the 2 running backs, Swift and Williams is a very good duo. Wide receivers, I mean, you're absolutely stocked. I mean, you're talking about 8 wide receivers that I absolutely love with McLaurin, Ayuk, Judy, Claypool, Gallup, Mooney, and then now Elijah Moore to that list. Elijah Mitchell, good depth, and Hunter Long, a good tight end 3-4 for you. I do think he's going to be very good next year because Mike Gesicki's only on a 1-year deal. So his questions basically are, what moves would you make going forward? And honestly, I mean, the only thing I'm thinking is maybe just see what you can get for guys like Raheem Mostert and Tyler Higbee, because to me, this looks like a team that if you make the right moves, maybe acquire a couple picks in 2022 or a couple younger assets, you could start competing by 2022.
Yeah, I already know what the comment is going to be at the end of this video. It's probably going to be house money because, like, legitimately another house money situation. You have a good enough team that if things break right this year, let's say Javonte Williams can beat out Melvin Gordon or something like that, you could compete this year. But if you don't, that's fine too, because in 2022, you're going to have a really good team. So again, I would just, see what happens this year. If you can make some moves, make some moves. But even with guys like Raheem Mostert, I probably wouldn't be in a hurry to move anybody like that. If we get to mid-season and Raheem Mostert, is the starting running back of the 49ers for the first 3 weeks of the season, and you can sell him for a 2nd-round pick, then do it then. But aside from that, I think you're probably just good to sit pat and see what happens, see how Ayuk plays out, see how Judy plays out. Just watch your young guys develop and see how many games you can win and be ready to compete in 2022.
Yep, absolutely. Did a good job there. So we can move on to Jared's team. So you can take it away. He's team 4, it says.
Yeah. So with Jared's team, again, we've gone over his league before because it's kind of an interesting format and there's a lot of strategy to it. So it's 12-team, 1 quarterback league. And he wants to know basically within the landscape of his division, which is all on the screen there, how good is his team in comparison to the rest of his division? Because the way his playoff format is set up is that there are 3 division winners that get into the playoffs out of the 3 total divisions and the 12 teams, and then 3 wildcard spots. So 6 total teams make the playoffs. So I would say to be a contender in this league, you probably want to be a top 4 team, at least a top 5, top 6 team, obviously, to make the playoffs, but a top 4 team to contend legitimately. And I would say based on your division, I only really see one team that's truly better than yours. I think team 1 is probably I think team 1 is probably better than yours this year and not in the future, because in the future you got this guy beat because he has Derrick Henry and he has some older assets, even Juju and Travis Kelce and stuff. So from a future standpoint, you're in a better situation than him. But for this year, because he has McCaffrey and Henry, he's probably going to be a better team than you with J.K. Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then he has Tannehill, who I also really believe in, obviously, this year. And then he has Travis Kelce at tight end. So I think his team is probably the favorite to win this division, but I like your chances to finish second and probably claim a wild card spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I'm looking at this team, you look to me the clear second best team. But I will say right now, if your upside players hit their upside, you can absolutely contend, maybe even for that top spot. Because, like, let's say, for instance, Trey Lance. I think he's got the potential once he earns that starting job. I know you have Mayfield in there as a starter right now, but if Lance gets that starting job and the offense is going to be as good as I believe it can be, we're talking about a guy that can produce top 5 level numbers. And we don't say that about a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. Trey Lance, with his rushing acumen, with the weapons he has, and with the overall system that Kyle Shanahan should put him in, I wouldn't be shocked if we're talking about a guy by the end of the season averaging 55, 60 rushing yards per game. That's the type of athlete he is. And if you have that type of difference maker at quarterback, Dobbins and CH, we've talked about at nauseum over the offseason. They have the potential to eclipse RB1 type of numbers. Wide receivers, I mean, that's probably easily the best young trio of wide receivers in your division, absolutely stacked, in addition with Pittman and more. And tight end, I mean, Kittle and Kelce are definitely better options at this current point. But I do think Hawkinson, while he may not replicate those type of numbers, are we looking at a guy that can produce 65, 70 receptions for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, I think we can absolutely get that. And if he's giving you that type of production, guess what? This team's going to be able to put up points. So overall, I would put you at 2, but I do think the upside could potentially have you competing for that number 1.
Right. And especially considering the fact that I think his receiver core is very deep as well. And if a lot of things break right, then he could be in a situation where he starts a lot of these receivers. And given the landscape of the format that he's in, I know he's told me that if you start 2 running backs, you have to start a tight end, because I know it's a 0 to 2 tight ends, but the only way you don't have to start a tight end is if you only start 1 running back. So a lot of intricacies to this league, but overall, I think your team is probably in the second best position of your division. So, and that's, I mean, if we're in the NFL, that's what you look to build first, right? You build to win your division. And I think you've done a good job doing that, especially looking at your division. It looks like every team that your division rivals are, they're all kind of win now situations.
Yeah. And as long as you're not fucking team 3, you're chilling.
Team 3 David Johnson and James Conner is RB1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is big yikes.
Yeah, team 3 is pretty dog water, but at least you're team 4 and you're a lot better. So anyways, yes, you can contend to answer your question. Let's move on to the next team. That's going to be Damien's 12-team Superflex half PPR league. Quarterbacks, he's got Dak, Jordan Love, Big Ben, Kellen Mond, Jacob Eason. Running back, Zeke, Aaron Jones, and some others as you guys can read out. Wide receivers, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Chark, Rashad Bateman, Terrace Marshall, and some others there. Tight end, you got Dallas Goedert and OJ Howard in particular, with the Lord himself, Thaddeus Moss. So talking about his picks, 3 first-rounders in 2022, and once he doesn't have his first in 2023. Sorry, I misread that. So this is a 12-team Superflex half PPR. Tight end premium of 0.5, so keep that in mind. So Dallas Goedert is even more valuable in this type of format because he's one of the true volume tight ends that we should see in the upcoming year. These are his moves. He traded away Diggs for Zeke in the 2022 first. Let me say this right now. We kind of disagreed before show on the player values alone, because I personally would take Zeke straight up over Diggs. So the fact that you got the 2022 first on top of Zeke Elliott, who, in my opinion, is a top 5 running back for this year, yes, I love it. This is a team that can compete. And with Ezekiel Elliott giving you that top 5 to 7 at minimum, in my opinion, output, you're going to be competing. Now, Corey would prefer Diggs, but when you add the first in, he said, yeah, okay, I would rather the Zeke side, but I'll let you talk for yourself so I don't have to talk for you.
Yeah, no, from a value perspective, I agree with the Zeke side, but if we're talking Zeke for Diggs straight up, I will take Diggs, even in a competing situation. They're both win now assets, obviously. They're both in their primes, but Zeke to me has less longevity than Diggs, which is why I would take Diggs over Zeke if it was a straight up situation. But the fact that you got a first rounder on top of it makes me easily lean the Zeke side there.
Yep, absolutely. So the next deal, he traded away Cam Akers in exchange for CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Love, and a 2022 first. And look, we are huge Cam Akers advocates on this channel. But man, I love this fucking package that you got. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. Maybe I'm a Cowboys truther. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a Cowboys fan. But fuck, man. CeeDee Lamb is already being considered as a top 5 to 8 dynasty wide receiver by a lot of people out there. So from a value standpoint alone, he's going in the mid-third round, while Akers is probably an early second rounder. So I do think that Jordan Love in that 2022 first would make up the difference there.
Yeah, the value is definitely there. I'd have a hard time accepting this trade if I'm the Cam Akers owner, because you guys all know how much I love Cam Akers, right? It would be hard for me to just trade Cam Akers, period, let alone for CeeDee Lamb, who I'm lower on than Danny, but I definitely agree. He's definitely one of the premier dynasty assets that you can have at the wide receiver position. Jordan Love, who I actually was a bigger fan of than most people coming out. I still don't totally believe they're just going to give this guy the starting job if Aaron Rodgers isn't there. So I'm not really that high on Jordan Love as an asset. He's like a top 28 quarterback for me in Dynasty right now. And then the 2022 first, obviously that's always going to appreciate in value. So the package I would take, it would just be hard for me to accept the fact that I'm trading away Cam Akers. That's the only thing. For
sure. And he said he traded away his 2021 111 for the 203 and the 205. I wish we could have seen who you took with the 203.
I think I know who we took based on who he has on his team.
Bateman and Marshall?
Yeah, he has Bateman and Marshall on his team. And if he got Bateman and Marshall at the 203 and the 205, I love this deal. If you didn't get Bateman and Marshall, then in my opinion, the 203 and the 205 is probably, Trey Sermon and Terrace Marshall, right? Like that's probably what we're looking at, or like Rondale Moore and Trey Sermon at like a worst case scenario.
That's fair. Yeah. Overall, if that's what you got out of it, I absolutely love it for you. Assuming that
Bateman is my 111. Like that's who I would have picked at 111. So if you got 203 Bateman at 203, then I absolutely love that deal for you.
Yep. And finally, he says, I know my quarterback depth is very shaky. Yeah, it is, to be fair. Any general thoughts and opinions about what to do moving forward? Trade targets, can I contend now? Do you recommend trading first rounders during the season or in the off season? So looking at this team, this is a team that honestly, like your whole team is basically set up aside from the quarterback position. I'd honestly just take it into the season, see what I got with it. If I'm looking, like say this team starts out 5-3 or 6-2 or something like that, and a Matt Stafford becomes available for like a first and I don't know, fucking a first and what running back or receiver are we throwing in there? A first and Terrace Marshall for Matt Stafford. Are you doing that type of move with this team if it's contending?
Yeah, I'd probably do something like that.
Yeah, so you're flexible. You're able to make that type of move on impact depending on what the circumstances are for this team. I do think that you can contend. That second quarterback's obviously going to be the biggest obstacle standing away. And hey, worst case scenario, you get off to a slow start. Guess what? Next year's quarterback class is fucking set up. And you have 3 first rounders for next year. And you can add, let's say, Spencer Rattler and Carson Strong, or Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell, or freaking Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder. Like there's so many quarterbacks next year that you could really build out that quarterback room. And with Dak Prescott, let me tell you, you're pretty set up at that QB1 spot. So you just need that QB2-3 to help you out here.
I'd be willing to bet that one of Jordan Love or Kellen Mond can become your QB3 as well.
That's true too.
Your QB2 might be the spot that you're looking for. And I think I would say one piece of advice I'd have is don't panic, because I know you're going to get to the season and you're going to see Big Ben in your super flex spot and you're going to be like, oh, that's so garbage, right? Because it's gross, right? It's terrible. But the rest of your roster is so good that it probably shouldn't matter that much. And if you can survive this season and potentially even win this season without acquiring a quarterback, then like Danny said, you're going to have 3 1s next year. And to answer your other question where you said, do you recommend trading first rounders during the season or in the off season? The answer is and always will be in the off season, because they will always have more value the closer you get to rookie drafts. And, peak value is right before the draft and right after the draft. So if you want to hold those 3 first round picks, let's say you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, but you still need to address your quarterback position, Dak and Jordan Love. Let's say Jordan Love and Kellen Mond haven't worked out to the extent that we want them to. At this point, you absolutely need a quarterback in this upcoming draft. What you can do is sit on those picks until rookie fever hits, and you could probably get a Tannehill plus for one of those first round picks.
Yep, absolutely agree with that. So we can move on to the next team, in my opinion, unless you have any other thoughts.
No, that's probably good.
All right. We can go on to Sask Will's team, a 12-team Superflex full PPR league. Take it away with his team and the trades that he made.
Yeah, so Sask Will sends his team, like Danny said, 12-team Superflex PPR. You can see on his team, he's got a lot of quarterbacks by the looks of it. Deshaun Watson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jordan Love. So all guys that are inside my top 30 in quarterback rankings, and like 4 guys that are in my top 15. You got at running back, you have Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, and some fodder. Not really that great there. Wide receiver, you got a bunch of young guys. Chase Claypool, really the only, and Michael Gallup, the only real notable guys. Noah Fant at tight end.
Elijah Moore.
And Waddle. Elijah Moore. I didn't even see him, and Jalen Waddle down there, and Rondell. But the picks is what the attractive part of this team is, right? You got 4 firsts in 2022. You got 5 firsts in 2023, and you have 2 firsts in 2024. And you also have 3 seconds in 2023 as well. So a lot of draft capital for this team, right? And so you can see some of the trades that he made to get to this point of where his roster currently stands. And you can see just a phenomenal trade here, because I have Chase Claypool straight up rated over Jerry Jeudy. So Chase Claypool and Jalen Waddle, who is a back end of the first round type of value for Jerry Jeudy, you basically got Claypool in a first for Jerry Jeudy, which is, to me, is absurd. You absolutely smashed that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this deal for you as much as I like Jerry Jeudy. Guess what? Chase Claypool is stud in his own right. And Jalen Waddle was my second favorite wide receiver, or third favorite wide receiver in the class. Landing in a spot, number 6 overall draft capital. I do think he's going to be a very good contributor for a while now. Great trade there. And talking about the second trade, I can just quickly read it out. Wire me the money. Great return on DK Metcalf. Listen, DK Metcalf is an absolute freak of fucking nature, but he is not worth Zach Wilson, 2 firsts, a second, and Rondell Moore. You absolutely fleeced the frick out of whoever made this deal with you. Great job.
I'm dropping the thing at the end of our outro, at the end of all of our videos that says why you need the money. I'm dropping it right on this trade because legitimately that is not fair. Like what you did to this guy, unconsensual. Like you should not. That was
really
not a fair trade whatsoever.
That's
I don't
nice.
know why that guy likes DK Metcalf so much, but DK Metcalf, even if you believe the highest end of DK Metcalf's value, let's say you think he's going to be the next Calvin Johnson, I still wouldn't take this trade. And you might call me an idiot for that because the next Calvin Johnson would obviously be like a Hall of Fame caliber receiver. But Zach Wilson is in my opinion, is a franchise quarterback. You got 2 first-round picks out of it. You got a somewhat exciting young receiver and a second-round pick. So for a guy in Metcalf, who, in my opinion, the more realistic view, as we talked about on yesterday's video, is a boomer bust asset right now for the time being, and a guy that has a up-in-the-air quarterback situation going forward if the Seahawks fail to reach a Super Bowl this year. I don't imagine this Russell Wilson wanting a trade talk is going to go anywhere anytime soon. So Metcalf is a guy, in my opinion, that's on thin ice in terms of where his value currently lies. And we could be looking at an Aaron Jones situation this time next year. So I really love this deal for you. I think you absolutely killed this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you really set the tone on your league mate right here, but we can go through your few questions. You want me to read these or you got these?
Yeah, I got him. He says,
right.
Would you be moving any other players? Right. He's obviously a win now or a rebuilding team. So he doesn't need guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick. He doesn't need guys like Nelson Aguilar. He says Sanders here, but I don't see Miles Sanders on his team. So I'm not exactly sure.
Manuel Sanders.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and he said maybe my handcuff running backs because he's got Tony Pollard. He's got Alexander Madison. If you can get anything for those guys, yeah, I'm fine moving them because I don't think either of them really, like, those running backs aren't going to have a lot of value. I don't think they're not going to sign huge contracts once they get to free agency or anything like that.
I'll tell you right now, if you can get seconds for those guys, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I honestly might even take thirds for those guys, to be honest.
I probably wouldn't because I would just rather hold.
I would take a third for Madison, but maybe not for Pollard.
The reason why I wouldn't take a third for Madison is because since it's likely that Dalvin may go down in the season, if he misses even 1 week, guess what? You're selling him for a second. You're selling him for a second. So that's the way I view it. Like, I just wouldn't take a third. But if somebody's willing to give you seconds, by all means, you just fucking stock those up and you're really setting the tone on that rebuild. So great job there. Would you trade Fant for a 24 projected early first? I'll let you start this one off.
I personally wouldn't. I think Fant's going to be, we know the story with tight ends, right? Tight ends usually peak around age 25, 26, 27, 28. And Noah Fant, I'm not exactly sure what his exact age is right now. I think it's like 23, 24. Yeah, so if he's 23 years old right now, he's going to be at his peak by the time that your team is starting to come together. So I personally wouldn't trade him away for a 2024, even if it's an early first round. So much can happen between then. That could end up being the 112 or the 101. Like, you have no idea. Even if that guy's team looks like it's headed for a crash and burn by 2024, shit happens. Like, you never know at that point. So I would need more than a 2024 first for Noah Fant. If you were able to get other assets in return for Noah Fant, then I'm okay making the trade then. But just a 2024 first, I would need more.
Yeah, I mean, talking straight value, I do like the 2024 one.
I think you're underestimating how good of a prospect Fant is.
No. I'm basing that on tight ends just in general. Like, aside from like the Pitts, the Kelsey, the Kittle, like, it's kind
of. You're going to be able to get more for what have I called Noah Fant before? Beachfront real estate. He's going up in value. As soon as he gets a quarterback upgrade, that's when you sell him. You don't sell him now.
But even if we know he's getting a quarterback upgrade, and even if we know he's going to be an 850, 900-yard tight end, let's just say hypothetically, if he's doing that in the 2023 season, by then, is he going to be worth an early 2024 first?
Probably. If he's been an elite tight end or a borderline elite tight end for 2 years already, absolutely.
And a non-tight end premium, I don't see it.
I prefer Fant. I still believe long-term in what I saw at Iowa.
Fair. No, I believe in the guy. I just think from a value standpoint, to be fair, though, because of your team, because you don't have any other tight end depth, and because you have 9 firsts in the next 2 years, you could probably just keep them and contend by then. But talking strict value, I like the value on the other end, but I would probably just hold on because he fits your window. So it's a weird deal, though. I will say it's definitely something to think about. Anyways, we move on to the next. Would you move Sermon and or Carter for prospects or picks with less risk? I would really need to know more backstory on that. Like, what are we trading for? If you can get a first for either of those guys, I'm taking that in a heartbeat. If you can get a first and a second for both of them, I would still take that over them as well. But anything less than that, it's just not worth it. Just see what you got with those guys and hold on.
Yeah, I think if either of them get out to hot starts or, a big, let's say Tevin Coleman gets cut or something like that, and you could sell Carter for a first at that point, then I would do something like that. Or Raheem Mostert gets cut or something or goes down, like he'll probably go down at some point this year. So you could probably sell Trey Sermon at that point. But at the point we're at right now, you're probably not going to get appropriate value for those guys. So I'd probably just hold and see what you got. And then any players you'd be targeting, I mean, you're looking at a 2023 window. I always talk about Javonte Williams. If you can go out and acquire a guy like him, he's always a guy that I like to acquire for rebuilding teams. I think at wide receiver, you already have Chase Claypool, who's a guy that I think is a great guy to go acquire long-term because eventually he's going to have a quarterback upgrade, hopefully better than what Big Ben is right now. So he's a guy that I like for a rebuild as well. I think you're in a good position. Deshaun Watson, he's a guy that you could probably sell, but not yet, obviously. Like sell him once his situation's back to normal. Because if you wanted to sell him as the court, because you have Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson, you don't really need Deshaun Watson for the point that your team's going to be at in 2023. So if this time next year, Deshaun Watson's already served his suspension or whatever, and he has a clear situation, gets traded to the Panthers or something like that, then sell him then, because you'll probably get an absolute haul for the guy because he's going to have first round startup value by that point.
Yep, absolutely agree. I mean, we're both very big fans of Javonte Williams. If you can get a guy like that, I absolutely agree with that type of scenario. Anyways, let's go on to Caleb. 10-team half PPR super flex league. You guys can see it's a very intricate picture. It's got a lot on it. So buckle your seatbelts because we're in for a nice little treat here. So it's a 10-team Dynasty league transition year, moving from 25 to 30 roster spots and also adding a super flex, going from 1 quarterback to 2 quarterback. So not a tight end premium league. So it's just full half PPR. It has a 5-round draft, including 2021 rookies and people that were in last year's free agent pool. So it's questions. What are my team's biggest needs? And how early should these free agent quarterbacks be drafted since the quarterback value is going up and Watson's situation is unknown? So first of all, what are your team's biggest needs? You guys can see the team: Watson, Herbert, wide running backs, McCaffrey, Akers, Gibson, Dobbins in particular.
You can just stop there at running back.
Yeah, wide receivers, you're also stacked there. Tight ends, you're also stacked there. So you're just stacked all around, apart from maybe quarterback.
Yeah, your biggest need is clearly QB for this year, QB2 for this year behind Justin Herbert, because you can't really rely on Deshaun Watson at this point. And I would say QB3 is also your next biggest need, because if either of those guys got hurt, then you wouldn't have anyone to start. So you definitely need to add a quarterback to this roster, I would say. And as of right now, you have, it looks like a good pick to add a quarterback. You have the 108 currently, and you can see his rookie picks on the side there: 108, 203, 308, 404, and 407. And he asks, what would your top 8 to 10 quarterback rankings look like, including the free agents that we have currently as the top available guys? And then I would assume we can address that quarterback situation with some of these rookie picks. So how would you go about attacking this? Would you be looking at 108? He says with his already solid tight end squad, if Kyle Pitts is there, do you pass on him at 108?
If he's there at 108, there's just no chance I pass on him. Again, I'm an advocate of best player available. I understand that, quite frankly, you're looking at a quadruple tight end core if you add Kyle Pitts. That is absolutely stacked to the moon. But guess what? That is what trading is for. Trading is for filling your needs. Draft picks are for getting the best players available. Never forget that. If Kyle Pitts is available, we're talking about a guy that by this time next year, if he has the dominant rookie season that I think is in the range of possibilities, we could be looking at the consensus tight end 1 in Dynasty. We could be looking at a top 2 round type of pick at 21 years old going into next year. Like I can't pass on that. I can't. So overall, if you're looking at the 108, if Kyle Pitts is there, you have to take him. If not, then one of those quarterbacks are fine. The way I would rank these quarterbacks would be the 5 quarterbacks in this rookie draft, followed by Wentz, Darnold, Winston in that order. Then probably I would go with Love, Fitzpatrick, and then rounding it out would probably be Garoppolo, then Locke.
Yeah, that's probably the way I would rank them. And if you want to know our rookie rankings, I personally have it Lance, Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Danny just has Justin Fields at 3 instead of 4 where I have him. So that's the difference in our rookie rankings. But I think in terms of attacking your draft, 108, if Kyle Pitts is gone, right? Let's say Kyle Pitts is gone. Zach Wilson is probably who I'm looking at that 108, because I'm assuming Fields, Lance, and Trevor Lawrence will also be gone as well. So at 108, if you can get Zach Wilson, that'd be a great addition to your team. If not, then you can just take best player available, whether it's a running back or wide receiver. And then at 203, you should be able to. Do you think that 203, if you take Carson Wentz there, do you think that's probably appropriate value?
Yeah, 203, you're looking at probably one of Wentz or Darnold probably, and I'd be fine with either of them at that spot. I think it's a pretty good value spot for either of them. But anyways, yeah, you're stocked up. This team is absolutely ridiculously stacked. Just honestly, with those rookie picks later on, balancing between rookies and veterans, the only veteran that I would really value here is for a contender, probably Brashad Perriman. Maybe if you want to get a quote unquote intriguing type of prospect on the end of your bench, I think Edwards and Jefferson aren't terrible options. But aside from that,
those are fourth round guys. I think they're guys I'm not really looking for. If you can get Jordan Love at that 308, I think that's great value as well. I doubt you're going to be able to. Jameis Winston, same thing. I doubt he's going to go in the third round, but that 203 should be earmarked for Carson Wentz or Sam Darnold if you don't get a quarterback with that 108, in my opinion. So his other questions, we'll just rip through those quick. He said, what skill player free agents would be smart to target in the draft? Basically, we just talked about. At which point would you trade Christian McCaffrey? Obviously, he's a huge piece on my team, but I'm wondering if it's worth getting a huge return soon rather than wait until his value dwindles. I've got good young running backs and could make do until then. I personally would ride Christian McCaffrey until the wheels fall off. Your team is ready to compete. There's no chance I would trade Christian McCaffrey for a contender.
Yeah. Like, what do you need? Be honest. Be objective with yourself. Again, you know how I am in general. I do like moving proven top of the line assets for depth / younger assets that can appreciate in value. But man, you legitimately
the hardware at some point.
You legitimately have no fucking needs whatsoever. Your running backs are insane. The fact that you can go out and say J.K. Dobbins is my RB fucking 4, give yourself a medal, that is ridiculous. Not to mention Mike Evans is your wide receiver 4, Jerry Jeudy's your wide receiver 5, Noah Fant's your fucking tight end 2, and then your duo right now, even before adding to it at quarterback, which is your need spot, just so happens to be a top 5 quarterback if he's on the field with Deshaun Watson, and a guy who's on that fringe of the top 5 with Justin Herbert. This team is ridiculous. And the fact that your team let you do this, you did well. You did well. So
just go win the championship. Don't worry about McCaffrey. Even if McCaffrey has 3 more good years and then the wheels fall off like they did for Todd Gurley, let him fall off. You got 3 great running backs behind him that can take the torch, and you'll probably have more draft picks by then anyway. So I wouldn't be looking to shop McCaffrey on a contender. Just go out and win the championship. So let's get on to the next team. We got Damn Geo, and then we're going to try and speed these up a little bit so we can keep this under an hour. At the it's a 12-man PPR super flex. He has Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, Dak Prescott as a super flex. So some great QBs there. Najee Harris, Cam Akers as top 2 running backs. He also has Travis Etienne, Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, Jamar Chase, and then some fodder. And then he also has Noah Fant as his tight end, Dawson Knox, some fodder as well with O.J. Howard. Defense and kicker, don't really care about that. He said he's just looking for an evaluation of his team. Which steps should he take to improve his roster and standing overall? He said he's honestly not sure if his team is built to compete or if he's rebuilding or if he's stuck somewhere in the middle. So in terms of his picks, it looks like he has all of his draft picks the next 3 seasons and 2 seconds in 2022. So what are your thoughts on his team overall?
Looking at this team real quick. It's a good team. Again, the RB depth past the top 2 are a little weak.
He has ETN on the end of his bench.
Okay. I just saw that now. Wide receivers. This to me looks like a 2022 team based off what I've initially
I think he can win this year.
The thing is, I think ETN's going to make or break his contention. If ETN this year ends up being a guy who's an RB2, RB3 for the first half of the season and wins leagues down the stretch, I absolutely think that this team can go on a run because, again, with Fant, Evans, Johnson, Chase, those other 2 running backs, and then those quarterbacks with Dak and Tannehill, I do think they're enough to carry your team. So if ETN breaks out, I think that'll be, quote unquote, the make or break of your team. However, even if he doesn't, 2022, this is going to be the team favorite or the league favorite, in my opinion. You got a really good team over here. And in general, in terms of moves you can make, just kind of see where you're at in, week 6, week 7. If you're 5-2, if you're 6-1, or if you're fucking 2-6, you can evaluate based on that, on what you should do to improve this team. But yeah, the only thing I'll honestly say is probably RB depth if ETN doesn't get out to a blazing hot start. Yeah,
I think you're just in a position, again, playing with house money. Just try and win this year. If you don't win, you You can replenish your talent in the draft. You still got your first rounder next year. You still got 2 seconds next year. Still have a third rounder. You can always move your 2023 first as well. Once that class starts to pick up steam, you're in a good spot. I think if you're in a position to compete next year after, let's say ETN and Harris are in great positions to be stud running backs, you still got Akers. Like, your team's going to get carried by your quarterbacks, Akers, Evans. Like, you got a lot of good pieces on your team. You just need to add some more youth, add some more depth, and you should be on your way to a dynasty by that point.
Yep, absolutely. So we can get off to these last 2 teams. You can take it away with Kibile's team, 12-team PPR Superflex tight end premium with a 1.5 premium being at hand.
Yeah, so he told me basically, you guys can see that it's a Superflex league, and he has Teddy Bridgewater and Tracy McSorley as second and third quarterback. So obviously not a position you want to be in, but I guess basically one of the guys in his league pulled a Danny and drafted like 9 quarterbacks, including like 6 quarterbacks that are in my top 15. So that guy really just hoarded quarterbacks. I honestly can't stand when people do that. I know it's like a strategy, but it pisses me off. So if you're in a league, just don't do it, because the reason I say don't do it is because you're going to piss off your league mates, and then they're not going to want to trade with you. And you want good trade relationships. That's how you build a good team, is to have good trade relationships. If you think about it from an NFL perspective, NFL teams have good relationships with each other. The GMs, they all talk and converse and go to the combine and get drunk in Indianapolis. Like, they have good relationships with each other. And if they didn't, it's hard to make trades with people you don't have a good relationship with. So don't hoard quarterbacks with the intent of strategy and fleecing people, because it's going to be hard to make trades in the future. So nonetheless, rest of his team looks like it's a very win now type of roster with Kittle, with Cook, with Eckler, with Godwin, a lot of win now type of assets. It doesn't look like he has his first round pick or his second round pick in 2022. He has all of his picks in 2023, which is a good thing. And he basically asked from the guy that is fleecing all the quarterbacks, he basically offered him a trade. Matthew Stafford he'd be receiving, which would be his QB2, for DJ Chark in a 2023 first. And what are your thoughts on that trade?
Nah, I wouldn't. Given your wide receiver core, I just wouldn't do this. The way I would do this, if you can counter with maybe Mooney in the first, I'd probably consider that. But listen, you're relying on DJ Chark as your wide receiver 2 right now. And as much as I love Matt Stafford, I just don't know if you're going to be able to compete with that wide receiver core if you lose Chark.
I totally agree. I don't think you're probably in a position to be moving wide receivers, and you already don't have your first next year, right? So you and your team is somewhat aging, I would say, with Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler and George Kittle. So you are going to need some injection of youth at some point. So I wouldn't be looking to move your first round pick. I know you're in kind of a shitty position right now because you don't really have any quarterbacks to work with, but I think you got to be patient. If you panic and try and acquire a quarterback like that, then you're probably going to set yourself up to be in a bad situation. So if you're looking to move your 2023 first and a piece to get a quarterback, make sure it's a young quarterback, because your team is already somewhat aging. And if you add Matt Stafford to this team, then you're really, pigeonholing yourself into being a win now team.
Yep, absolutely. So any other closing thoughts on this team, or should we move on?
He also asked, should he trade Gibson for Stafford? Absolutely not. Like, if you're going to trade Gibson away, which I probably wouldn't do because he's your only young running back on your team. If you're going to trade him away, you better get like a Dak Prescott for him.
Like even if it's Gibson and I don't know, fucking 2023 second or something for Dak, like something like that is what I would be looking for. Not fucking Matt Stafford for him straight up. Honestly, I would need like at least like Matt Stafford, a first and a young player, even to consider a type of deal involving Gibson there, in all honesty. So hold pat. I wouldn't do anything there. That guy, he's taking it a little overboard. The quarterback court's a nice strategy, but don't be offering some fucking Stugats, some fucking Fugats type of deals like what we see right here.
Yeah, if I were you, I would go out and acquire a cheap quarterback like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I believe is also on this quarterback hoarders team, unfortunately. But if you can acquire someone like that to get you by for this year, I think that's your best case scenario, because relying on Teddy Bridgewater might not work out too well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can go on to the final team of the video, and it's going to be from Trev Rock, a 2 quarterback, 2 tight end premium team. Take it away with Trev Rock's team there, Corey.
Yeah, so you guys can see it's a 2 quarterback league. He has Kyler and Tua, and then Jordan Love, Taysom Hill, some half decent depth there, but could be a little bit better in that area. J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire as top running backs, and some fodder. Chase Claypool, been on like every team in this video pretty much. Not a lot of great wide receiver depth though, obviously. And then tight end Jonnu Smith, Adam Troutman. And then he has 3 first-round picks by the looks of it in this coming rookie draft. They haven't had the rookie draft yet. also has a mid-second, a mid-third, and a late fourth. I think he says it's like a 20-team league, so he basically converted the pick values into like a 12-team format just to make it easier for people to understand. So you have to start 2 tight ends. It's a 2 tight end premium, basically, and it's a best ball. So you don't actually have to make start-sit decisions. So, I mean, that makes guys like Darius Slayton, Marquise Brown, KJ Hamler a little bit more appealing, but they're still not guys that I'm really excited about. He asked a couple questions. He said, should I sell low on Jordan Love, Taysom Hill, or should I wait it out to see if either of those guys, win their starting jobs or anything like that? And then also, what are our thoughts on the rookie picks? So what are your thoughts on Jordan Love and Taysom Hill? If you have those guys, are you looking to sell them now? Or are you looking to wait to see what the situation plays out to be?
So the value on Taysom Hill, he says, is maybe a late third. I'm just going to keep Taysom for that because although I think Winston's going to win the job, Winston's on a 1-year deal. Taysom Hill showed that when he's in the lineup, he can at least perform from a fantasy football level. So for a 3rd round pick, I'll just keep Taysom Hill and see what I got. Worst case scenario, I lose out on a Nico Collins type of prospect, not even a Nico Collins, probably Josh Palmer type of prospect, Amir Smith, Marseille, Hunter Long. I don't care at that point. And the second for Love, it depends where that second is, because if I'm getting a mid-second for Love, I'll take the pick, honestly. As much as I love Jordan Love, I think, little pun intended there, but I do think that the 205, 204, 203 is a much safer asset at this point. Even if Jordan Love gets the job, realistically, what does his value jump to? Does it jump to just ahead of the Sam Darnold range, which is probably the 201, 202 type? Like, at that point, just give me the 205 right now. Let me get a Terrace Marshall, and I'll go make babies with that.
Yeah, for sure. So the thoughts on the picks right now. Obviously, this is a pretty rebuilding type of situation. He has the 102, the 104, and the 110, most notably in the first round. So with that 102 and 104, are you looking quarterback with one of those picks?
With Kyler, Tua, Jordan Love.
It's a 2 quarterback league, not a super flex.
2 quarterback league. I'd probably use it on. Let me see the rest of the team. You could get Najee with the 102 and risk to see who's there at 104, or you could just take Trey Lance at 102 and then see what running back or Chase or maybe even 2 quarterbacks at the 104.
I think Pitts too. It's a 2 tight end start, right? So Pitts might even be worth that 102.
If it's a 2 tight end premium, no, is it 2 tight end starter or is it a 2?
I think you start 2 tight ends. He says tight end premium, so I'm assuming you get more tight ends as well. But yeah, I think Pitts might be worth that 102 in a 2 tight end premium.
If that's the case, yeah, fuck it, go for it. Take Pitts the 102, and whatever quarterback falls to you, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's Trey Lance at the 104. So you're in a really good spot there in terms of the 110. Maybe
that's a wide receiver for sure. That's a wide receiver.
I was about to say maybe if Zach Wilson drops, I'd take him. If not, again, yeah, wide receiver Devonta Smith. If Javonte Williams drops, I do think that's a very good pick as well. But overall, I think you're in a very good position to just go best player available with any of those picks.
Yeah, and that mid-second round pick as well. You could probably even load up on like a Kellen Mond or something if you wanted in the mid-second round. Yeah, I think you're in a pretty decent situation. Obviously, you're going to need to retool this, rebuild this for 2022 and beyond. But you got some young foundational pieces that should make it a bit easier of a transition than some other teams are in with a rebuilding situation. So if you guys did enjoy that, trying to keep this under an hour, of course, we have another like 12 teams to go over on the next Dynasty decisions, which will be coming out later today. So stay tuned for that. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. Peace out, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Wire me the money.